What is up everybody, and welcome back to the Maths Guy. Today we're looking at one-step equations that involve multiplication. Let's go. So we have these two questions that we're looking at. We have 5m equals 40 and we have 54 equals 6y. And we're going to remember when we're doing a skill like this that we want to isolate the variable by using the inverse. And we actually have a few different ways to do that, and we're going to look at two of them here today. So the first way, and using this first example, we can look for number families. So what we need to understand is that when a number is by a variable or a letter like this, without any symbol between it, it's essentially saying multiplication. So this could be rewritten as 5 times m equals 40. And 5 times m equals 40 is one of 4 number sentences in the same number family. So what are the other number sentences? Well, if 5 times m equals 40, then m times 5 must also equal 40. And we also have two division questions, two inverse questions. I could have 40 divided by m equals 5, or 40 divided by 5 equals m. And what we'll notice with all of these 4 sentences, they are all using the same 3 expressions, 5, m, and 40. But looking at our first one, we can see that the m is in the middle, so we don't know the value. But looking at one of these inverse, I can see this end one has the m, the variable, on the end, on its own, so we can simply solve this one to work out the value of m. And I can do 40 divided by 5 equals 8, so 8 equals m, or in other words, m equals 8. So what's the value of m? It would be 8 in this example. So that's the first way of solving it, using a number families, but that can be a little bit hard to see sometimes, and it takes a little bit of time. So let's look at our express method. We can also use the inverse in a slightly different way. Looking at this second example, I have 54 on one side, and I have the equals in the middle, and 6y, which basically means 6 times y, on the other side. But what I want to do, I want to isolate this y. At the minute, it's connected to the 6, but I want it on its own. So how can I get rid of this 6 times? Well, I'm going to use the inverse. The inverse of times 6 would be divide by 6. So I can rewrite this to be 54 equals 6y divided by 6. But if I've divided this side of my equal sign by 6, I then need to do it to this side too to make sure my equation is balanced. So I'm going to divide this side by 6 as well. Now I can start to solve it. 54 divided by 6 is 9. So this side would be 9 equals, and then the 6 times and the 6 divide equal each other out, and it just leaves me with y. 9 equals y, or in other words, y equals 9. And there you go. That is 2 methods to solving one-step equations that involve multiplication. Let's look at what to remember. First, we're going to find the number families if we choose to do the first method. Then we'll look for the inverse, and then we'll use the inverse to isolate the variable. Or in the second method, I will see what is connected to my variable, and in this case we had a times 6, and I will use the inverse to cancel it out. But if I use the inverse on one side, I have to then use it on the other side too, and that way I can isolate my variable to give me the answer. And there you go. Hopefully this has been useful for you. Thank you very much for watching. I'm going to see you in another video, but for now, peace out. What is up everybody? Welcome back to the Maths Guy. Today we are looking at how to solve one-step equations that involve division. Let's go. Okay, so the first thing we need to understand when solving a one-step equation is that we want to isolate the variable by using the inverse. So first of all, what is the variable? Well, the variable is this little value represented by a letter where the value is unknown. So we need to try and get it on its own. But as we can see with this first one, which reads x divided by 12 equals 3, the x is connected to this divide by 12. So if we want to get this x on its own, we need to get rid of this divide by 12. And the only way to get rid of this divide by 12 is to use the inverse to cancel it out. So let's rewrite the question, and it should read x divided by 12 equals 3. So we're going to try and use the inverse of this divide by 12, and the inverse of division is multiplication. So if I have x divided by 12 multiplied by 12 equals 3, what I've done is I've added this multiply by 12 onto this side. But in order to keep my equation balanced, I now have to multiply this side by 12 as well. So now on both sides of the equation, I've added this multiply by 12. And what that does is it means that I can now get rid of this divide by 12, because divide by 12 times 12 effectively equals 0. So my next line would read x, and then divide by 12 times 12 is 0, so I don't need to put anything there. So x equals 3 times 12, which is 36. And there we go, x equals 36. But that's not the only method that we can use. We can use the method of looking at the number families. So at the moment, if we look at this second question, it says 11 equals t divided by 4. Or in other words, t divided by 4 equals 11. Same thing. So this first one is our first number sentence, but we actually have 4 number sentences in every number family. Whoops, that should be 11. So the next number sentence would be t divided by 11 equals 4. Notice that we're using the exact same numbers and values, but we're just sequencing them in a different order. But now I have 2 multiplication questions that are also part of this number family. I have 4 multiplied by 11 will therefore equal t, and also 11 multiplied by 4 also equals t. So these 4 questions are all part of the same number family. And what I can just do is I can just look for one where the value of t is on its own here at the end. Well, both of these are, and I can just simply solve them. 4 times 11 equals t, so 4 times 11 is 44. So therefore t equals 44. Let's just check that with the last one. 11 times 4 also equals 44, which therefore means t equals 44. So I can just use either of these 2 number sentences, which are the inverse of the question, to help me find that missing value. And there you go, that is 2 ways to solve a one-step equation which involve division. Let's think about things to remember. In this first example, we want to try and isolate the variable, and we can do that by finding what the variable is connected to and cancelling it out by putting the inverse. But whatever I do to one side, I must do to the other side of my equation. In the second example, we are looking at number families. So we're rewriting our number sentence into all 4 number sentences that are involved in the number family, and we're finding the one with the variable on its own. Okay, there we go. Hopefully this video was helpful for you. If it was, please think about subscribing. We're making daily videos like this to help you with everything you need to know about maths. But for now, peace out.